Let's talk about the number one question I get asked on Instagram. How to learn multiple languages at once? Is it possible? Can you learn multiple languages at once? Let's dive into it. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Is it possible? Well, of course it's possible. If you have the time, you can absolutely learn 3 languages at the time. However, it's not for everyone. I don't think it's for everyone. I think some people are more likely to be successful when just focusing on one language, and even to some of my students I have advised to not learn multiple languages at once. I think it depends on your personality and who you are as a person, and you do have to agree and understand and compromise in many different aspects if you do want to learn multiple languages at once. So is it possible? Yes. Is it for everyone? Absolutely not. But there's something that is actually for everyone, and that is italki, the sponsor of today's video. I do not know a single language learner that doesn't love italki or that hasn't used italki ever. italki is one of those great platforms that will help you find the tutors that you need to get your language to the next level. They also have an amazing community features. One of my favorite italki features is the italki notebooks, where you get to write things and people will correct you. Honestly, I cannot get enough of it. I'm obsessed with it. They have over 130 languages, so if you're learning multiple languages at once, you're very likely to find one of those languages over there. Another great thing about italki is that the teachers decide on their prices, which is something that is amazing both for the teacher and the students, because you can find a variety and a great range of prices starting at trial lessons at $1. So if you're ready to take your language to the next level, join italki in the link in the description down below. It's one of my favorite platforms. I've been there as a community tutor and as a student, and I absolutely love italki. Now, let's go back to the video and talk about learning multiple languages at once. So first of all, I want to answer a question that I also get asked very often, and is, why do I learn multiple languages at once? I do know and I do understand and I do believe that learning one language at a time is the most efficient way of learning languages. It's the fastest route. If you're not dividing your time and resources into multiple languages, if you focus on only one language, of course you're going to progress faster. It's just logic. But I love so many languages and I love improving in all of them. And I naturally have this personality where I have many passions and many things that I love to do. And I cannot, trust me, I cannot just learn one language at the same time. Whenever I try to learn one language at the same time, I feel like I'm missing out on everything else that is going on with the other languages. So I love it because it just goes with who I am. And a lot of you, like me, we learn languages because we love to learn. So the more we can learn different grammar structures, different ways of seeing life, different cultures, different expressions, different ways of expressing yourself, the better. So we're doing this for fun. For me, it's not about being super efficient. For me, it's not about learning one language super fast and just improving in a crazy amount of time. For me, it's mostly about learning languages effectively and whatever I learn actually enjoy. So let me share with you the 4 tips and the 4 things that I've learned that work for me when learning multiple languages at the same time. The first tip that I have to you is to set priorities. I always have one main language that I focus mostly on. If I were to divide it, I will say I take about 70% of the time for my main language, 20% to my second language, and 10% to my third language. And then my maintenance languages, like Dutch and Italian at the moment, I just interact with them whenever I can, whenever I want to. I don't have a plan for them. I just learn them freely whenever I feel like it. Because I just want to maintain them. I'm not working on improving them at the moment. But for the other languages, which are Japanese, German, and Portuguese, I will have and pick a main language. This main language might change throughout the year. So maybe in the beginning, like for example, in March, my main language was German, and then it changed up to Japanese for 3 months. And then right now it's back in German, but then it might go back to Japanese again. So I alternate just whenever I feel like it. I just pick as a main language, the language that I think I can really progress the most on in a set period of time. Also depending on what resources I have available for at the time and what I'm feeling like and what I want to achieve. So set priorities, number 1 step. And this is going to help you actually progress in your target languages. Tip number 2 is to actually use different resources. I try to have different things that I do with different languages, and that helps me to separate them and to not confuse them. and most importantly, to make the space and the time for each one of those languages. Step number 3 is, of course, to plan ahead. I always like to set a plan, or I try to always set a plan, because they just help me make sure that I have the balance that I want to do and that I'm working on progressing. When you're learning multiple languages at the same time, it's so easy to lose your focus and maybe study one language for a week and then the next week another, and there's no continuity, continuously, continuous learning. Let me know in the comments how you say that word, please. I need to work my English. So again, what was I talking about? Plan ahead. You really need to plan ahead so you can learn continuously and actually progress in your language learning. So if you're trying to learn multiple languages at once, I really believe that planning is a skill that you must develop. And now step number 4, this is the most important step of them all, is know your limits. Like I told you before, it depends a lot on everyone. Some people cannot learn 3 languages at the same time because they have very high expectations of what they want to achieve, and if they do it with 3 languages, it's not going to be possible. Sometimes you just have to improve in one language because either you're moving to a country or you're, I don't know, going to university and studying that language. So then it may not be ideal to study so many languages at the same time because you have to focus on one, because there's like this responsibility that you have for that language. So that's definitely important to know. Also know your limits of time and energy. So setting study sessions and practice sessions and meetings with your language partners, get in contact with that language, try to do them at the times that you can actually focus on them and get a quality study session. I prefer to have 2 quality study sessions for some languages where I can really focus and make the most out of them, that have 40 very floppy, I want to say something else, kind of study sessions where you cannot focus, where you're just all over the place, and it's just a waste of time in my opinion. So rather know your limits, know when you can study better. I actually have a video on the best time to study. I highly recommend you watch it, and just know the limits of your own capacities. And with that, I'm not saying that you're not smart enough to learn 3 languages. You absolutely are, but sometimes we don't have the time, sometimes we don't have the concentration. I guess really struggle with that one. Sometimes we don't have the mental space to sit down and learn all these languages. So know yourself, be super honest with yourself, and understand your limits when it comes to actually learning languages. I also want to tell you about what to do if you fail. If you set out to study 3 languages and you find out that it wasn't possible and you didn't complete it, what I try to do is, instead of discarding all the languages, I drop down the languages that I studied the least or that I didn't study at all, and just tell myself this is a language that I might have to leave for later and not now, and I just focus on the ones that I've been leaning more towards on. So when you fail when creating a plan, especially for multiple languages at the same time, don't be so harsh on yourself. Understand that it's a process and that you at least tried. That's the most important thing. You learn from it. So now you understand your limits better, and from now on you can set more realistic routines and goals for yourself, which is super important. Yeah, and that's it. That's all I have to say about learning multiple languages at the same time. Again, is it possible? Absolutely. Is it for everyone? No. Is it for you? Well, that's something you'll have to try out and decide on your own. If you want to find your best time to study, here's this video over here. If you want to learn more about study plans, there's this video over here for you. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye bye!